Healthy Living Alliance, or HEALA, have recently published an article on how most consumers fall prey to aggressive advertising campaigns by large food companies promoting foods that are full in flavour but low in nutritional value. The publication also details how processed food is killing us. Nzama Mbalati is Programs Manager at HEALA. He joins us now on Zoom to dissect this. Good to have you on the programme, Nzama. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Leanne, and the viewers, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, big conversation we're about to have, especially after all of us are coming back from a holiday where eating was basically a part of it. And I'm sure a lot of us, well, I speak for myself, wasn't necessarily looking at the nutritional value, but we should be all the time. Talk to us about processed foods. When we talk processed foods, what are we referring to?
So processed food, I think that's a very good question. Processed food is the food that has gone through a lot of processing industrially to last longer, to have a long shelf life. So this food, usually we find it from breakfast cereal to lot of food is actually on the packaged food. So this food actually is very palatable. So it's easy to prepare because it has already been ultra processed. The problem with this ultra processed food is that it's high on sugar, fat, energy, sodium, and the biggest problem with it is that because we have moved away from our traditional and ancient ways of eating, because of the busy lives that we are living, the economic life that we are living, then we have moved away from our traditional way of eating. Then we are hooked up into this ultra-processed food. This also includes some of the foods that we eat in the fast and retail restaurants as well.
Yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, I mean, a processed food is something like what we're showing on the screen, whether we're talking about sausages or hamburgers, or when you look at what is actually in there, you actually cannot tell me. I mean, if I take a sausage, I don't think I want to know what's in there, because there is so much processed stuff inside there that we actually don't know at the end of the day what we're putting in our bodies. Even if we do read the outside, there are just so many ingredients there that we don't know what they are. And if we don't know what they are, why are we putting them in our bodies? And that's the question we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah, and I think the campaign that HEALA has also been running in terms of raising awareness through the mass media and educating people on the reduction of food with excess fat, sugar, and salt has been that government as well has to assist consumers. If you look at tobacco, for example, it's easy to understand. There is awareness that even people who are smoking, they understand the risk associated with smoking. We know that ultra-processed food is associated with chronic health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, and some cancers, that we can do the same in the packaged food in the way that we can put labels and warning labels on food that is unhealthy to consumers. So we have been calling, and we're expecting a regulation from the Department of Health very soon, early this year, that will come out for public comments, that will assist consumers again to understand, because Leanne, the biggest problem is many people do not know the risk associated with unhealthy food. But we do also understand that people eat food that they afford, that government needs to have a package of measures to assist people in accessing healthy food. And I think this we also included and were encouraged when the president announced zero rating, expanding zero rating for food on VAT, for food, for some of the staple healthy food for people who live in South Africa.
It's so fascinating, and I'm intrigued to hear about warnings coming on food, because I mean, this just shows you that we're coming a very, very far way, and that the dangers associated with eating highly processed food are immense. I mean, you've named some of them, and also in recent studies we're finding that dementia is also one of the causes of eating these highly processed foods. I know there are a lot of studies into the dangers of consuming this.
Certainly, Leanne, and I think to add on that, there is a lot of studies that are showing, mental health issues around stress and depression, associated, with people with eating a lot of ultra-processed food. And I think it's important that when we look at the growing epidemic of the health conditions I mentioned, such as diabetes, it's not a coincidence that this came with an increased eating of ultra-processed food and booming of the market of the ultra-processed food and fast food retail sales. So we're seeing the link, and science and evidence has shown the direct link between unhealthy processed food and health conditions, the growing health conditions that we are having in the country. So we have to regulate the food environment in this country. And one of the things that the Department of Health needs, or government needs to put package of policies that can protect consumers, number one, but from eating ultra-processed food, but also, enable consumers to afford healthy food. So we need this package of policies, and that's one of the things that HEALA has been driving, in actually advocating for government, and actually asking for industry accountability and a better behavior from the food and beverage companies, in actually producing food which is actually healthy, and food that is less and less on salt, food, sugar and salt, and
one of the scary things also reading is, I mean, we all think we doing the right thing in certain categories, and you try and be aware of what you're eating. I mean, but I'm reading some studies that they did even in the US. I mean, they were looking at yogurts, and it was literally out of all of the brands of yogurts that they took, and they had a look at them. There was just one that actually was a healthy one, which was an organic yogurt. The rest of them were possibly some of the unhealthiest foods that you could eat. And the reality is, you're thinking, yogurt? I mean, that's actually okay. But I mean, tell me about the packaging and how this should change, because obviously when you say, like, it's fast, it's convenient, it's healthy, you grab it, you look at something and they say it's low in fat, so it's a low fat yogurt, let's grab that, that should be good. But the reality is it's not. So what do we need to look for, and what should be written on those packages to tell us, you know what, like smoking's bad for you, but consuming and eating this is also bad for you?
Yeah, certainly, Leanne. And I think that's the critical part in terms of, enabling consumers to access healthy food. So if you look at, you gave an example of yogurt. So most of the, breakfast foods is cereal as well. You would say low on fiber, low on fat, but it doesn't say it's high on sugar. It doesn't say it's high on salt, for example. So what we have been saying actually is we are actually eating food that with hidden ingredients, unhealthy ingredients. The food industry, because there's a loophole in the regulation of food in this country, has done is that has propelled one aspect of the food that might be better in the list of ingredients that you spoke about, Leanne. But then again, they don't say, they hide the harmful ingredients in that very same food. So I think that's why we have been calling for the labels on food, a policy or regulation that we call is front of pack warning labels, that the Department of Health, we have been pushing the Department of Health to release very soon for public comment, that we should have labels on the food that say this is high on salt, this is high on sugar, this is high on energy, or it's high on trans fat. So it's important that we can have that, because like the example you gave on tobacco, there is awareness today because there is labeling, and there's a thorough regulation on healthy, unhealthy tobacco products. Same with food, that now we know that food with excessive salt, sugar and fat is unhealthy, and it increases the risk of us developing diabetes, hypertension, heart disease and some cancers. That can be done the same with the packaged food, and we know we're going to get a lot of pushback from the food industry, but this is the right thing that needs to be done to protect consumers. Tobacco did the same, said jobs will be lost and all that, not to be regulated, but this is important in raising awareness and creating an enabling environment. And we know that these food producers won't want their food to be demonized, so we're going to see a lot of reformulation and adjustment in improving the quality of food.
Oh, we've got to leave it there. And Nzama, unfortunately, I wish I could talk more to you, but I think it's a great start, a great conversation that I think we need to carry on. It's an important one, but people must know what they are consuming. I think we blindly consume without realizing the damage that we are doing to our health. It's a big problem. Nzama Mbalati, thank you. Thanks so much. Keep us updated with how that works out, and of course, open for public comment in terms of labeling foods and telling you the dangers in consuming that food group. All right, he's from HEALA, and the processed food industry, a difficult one, but one that people are finding more and more studies are showing it is killing us.